Well, this is very frustrating. I've already recorded this video, 25 minutes of me talking absolutely nonsense, as I usually do. Went to check my audio recorder that I use, and my mic hadn't been turned on. So we're doing this again. You know how these videos work by now. I do the live reaction after a Celtic game, usually a defeat nowadays. I make some rash comments, I get a train home, I rewatch the match mainly through tears, I have not very much sleep, and then I come the next day and record one of these videos, which is meant to be a more relaxed look back at what happened the night before. I'm going to give you some thoughts. I'm going to bring in some of your comments from the live stream last night, talk about then. We're going to put it all on the table and we're going to work out where Celtic stand right now. Now, I don't know how all of you people feel, but I'm not really in the mood to feel sorry for myself or feel sorry for Celtic. I've done so much of that over the last 18 months or so. I am just wanting to look back at last night, take the positives we can, and move it forward to Sunday when we have the biggest game of the week, probably the biggest game of the season so far, at Pittodrie against Aberdeen. Touch wood, we will have Kyogo and McGregor in the starting lineup for that match. I thought that was probably the biggest positive from last night. I wasn't expecting to see either of those players play for Celtic until after the international break. Pretty shocked last night at 6:45 when the team lineup came out and both of them were starting against Bayer Leverkusen. Now, I think we saw last night in glimpses what they both bring and what the team have missed so badly when those two players have been missing. I know people refer to Celtic as being a two-man team nowadays, and yes, that's not a great thing to say, and it's true, probably, certainly, but I would much rather be a two-man team with McGregor and Kyogo in the team than be without them, because we know how much we've struggled without them. Last night, I thought McGregor got off to a relatively nervous start. I was actually a bit concerned whether he was fit enough to be playing in that game, whether he'd been rushed back too early by Ange, but I thought he grew into the game, and I thought, despite the fact we lost 4-0, I thought he had a relatively good game. He brings a drive to that midfield that literally nobody else at the club can do, and it's so important that he brings that, both winning the ball back and moving the ball quickly. He's the link from defence to attack that we just don't have when he's not there. I thought Kyogo had another decent game. You see exactly what he brings to the club. His movement is tremendous. One of the chances last night, the defender Ta actually gave up tracking Kyogo. He just gave up with his movement and he tried to play an offside trap. He failed and Kyogo should have scored that. That was one of, I think, 4 good chances he had in the game last night. Now, the first one is the unbelievable tackle from Ta after he goes round the goalkeeper. The second one is the one I was just chatting about there. The third one at the start of the second half, the goalkeeper Hradecki makes an unbelievable save to tip it wide. And then the fourth one, I think it's another great save from the goalkeeper from a Jota header. And Kyogo, with the goal at his mercy, slices it into the side netting. On another night, he scores 2, maybe even 3 goals. I still love the guy, even though he didn't quite get the finishing touch last night. I just think having him and McGregor back in the team will be huge going forward and will be huge for Sunday. So Kyogo, McGregor, great to have them back. We need to chat about Jota because this guy is just an absolute star. Some of his play last night was exhilarating. He's built for that stage, and I just hope that he's not going to be one of those players that occasionally come to Celtic and they're amazing in European nights and don't quite do it in the lesser games in Scottish football. Now, I know Sunday isn't exactly a lesser game. Aberdeen away is a huge game for us, but I hope we see the Jota on Sunday that we did last night, because if we do, Aberdeen are not going to be able to deal with him at all. He's an absolute star, and the prospect of Jota, Kyogo and Abada, have we come up with a name for them? JKA. Suggestions below. Now, we've all been at Celtic Park in the past on European nights when we have just been completely bodied by opposition teams and not had a sniff in the whole match. Sparta Prague last year, 4-1. Going up a level or 5. PSG, Champions League, 2017, 5-0. Year before that, invincible season, Gladbach, another German team, only 2-0 at Celtic Park, but completely outclassed in that game. Last night, we got an absolute doing, 4-0, but it didn't have the same feeling as any of those 3 games that I just mentioned. Celtic created a lot of chances last night, probably just as many as Bayer Leverkusen, but we just couldn't take those chances. And on the flip side, we just conceded sloppy goals. We seem to have to work so hard to score right now. Opposition teams against us don't seem to have to work nearly as hard to get their goals. And Celtic aren't going to go forward if those key issues at both ends of the park, defensively and offensively, which is attack, by the way, stay the same. These 2 key parts of the game have to improve, because I would argue kind of middle to front, there's a lot of good movement, there's a lot of good play, neat interplay, nice running, good skills, but just that final product, that final cross, final shot, and that defending at the back have to improve if we're going to move forward. But anyway, I could talk forever, as you all know, and I've already done this video, so let's move on to your comments on the live stream last night. Just some of them that I thought were quite interesting to highlight. Starting with Alan Robertson. Now, Alan is saying, we need to play the fixture rather than being told to play the same way against every team. Naive. This is a point I'm seeing more and more from Celtic fans, and I do think the lack of a plan B has already hindered Celtic this season. Probably Livingston away was the main example of that. If we'd have had another way to play, we would possibly not have lost that match. But I do think it's commendable, and I really don't mean to sound patronising at all to Ange. I think it's genuinely commendable, and it's really good that he has this very single-minded approach. I think it is a real positive thing that he will play the same way, the exact same way at home to Ross County as he will at home to Bayer Leverkusen. We basically play with the same personnel, the same shape. I don't know whether that's completely down to Ange's ideology or whether it's partly down to the fact that he just doesn't really have many options at the moment to change things. I'm thinking mainly of the midfield 3 at the moment. It so clearly isn't working. Rogic and Turnbull just don't work together in the same team. They do 2 similar jobs. They're 2 luxurious footballers, and you need harder workers in there for me. You can probably have one of them in the team, certainly have one, but 2 is pushing it. It's fine at home to Ross County St Mirren, but when you're at home to Bayer Leverkusen or away to Livingston or Aberdeen this Sunday, I think you need to change things up, and I just wonder if Ange will do that. I would love to see McGregor and McCarthy sitting with, say, Rogic in front of them. I don't know, you wonderful Aussie fans that know Ange longer than me might be able to tell me whether I'm being completely daft with that comment. Would Ange actually change up the midfield 3 in terms of the way they play, and rather than having 1 player sitting and 2 in front, would he perhaps have 2 players sitting and have 1 in front? Or is it Ange's way or the highway? I just think it's plainly not working, Rogic and Turnbull, and the thought of Rogic and Turnbull in that midfield together on Sunday against a hard-working midfield that Aberdeen have, Ferguson, Brown, etc., gives me the fear, if I'm honest. Right, next comment, and Eleftherios Hatsuk. Not sure. This is exactly what happened when he took over the Brisbane Roar. He will leave no prisoners, give him time, and he'll get them right. Good old Roarcelona, which is a play on the football team Barcelona that a lot of Aussies had for Brisbane Roar, who I believe were one of the finest Aussie soccer football teams ever in history. Ange was obviously in charge. When he took them on, they were a long way away from where he got them to. He actually said, I was doing a bit of research, and he said when he joined the club that he wanted to be judged a year down the line. Obviously that's not going to happen at Celtic because the expectations are just immense at Celtic. But I wonder if Ange feels deep down that he's a year away from getting this Celtic team where he wants them to be. You know, we've got these 2 camps at the moment, and one is that Ange needs to get results. This is the worst start we've had since 1742 or whatever it is. He has to win on Sunday or, sack him. And you've got the other side that are saying that Ange almost shouldn't be judged for this season because he's inherited such a mess. He'll get Celtic to be where everyone wants him to be, but it will take that thing we all hate, that is time. I don't know if you hate time, but I sometimes do. I certainly do at the moment. So you've got these two different kind of opposing factions. I think the truth, as is always the case, or often the case, is somewhere in the middle. And I don't necessarily think it's an argument over whether Ange will be given time or whether Ange won't be given time. I think it will come down to whether Celtic are improving match on match and whether people can see potential in this Celtic team to be a good Celtic team. Now, the first point of that, are we improving match by match? I would say recently no. I would say, in fact, we've probably... What's the opposite of improved? Deteriorated. Of course it's deteriorated. But this Celtic team probably has in recent weeks, if we're honest. Although you've got the caveat of lots of injuries that maybe account for that. The second part of whether this Celtic team has potential, I think it's undeniable that this Celtic team does. This isn't a completely useless, hopeless, without hope, which is basically what hopeless means, Celtic team. This is a Celtic team that, for my eyes anyway, has a lot of potential. They just need to do the basics better. And I think as long as people can see that potential and can still see that potential at all times, Ange will be fine. I don't think it's as simple as people looking at it and going, yeah, he'll be given time, no, he won't be given time. It's all about how the journey goes and whether people are seeing positive signs, whether the results are good enough to justify Ange being given time. It'd be just so much easier if he just won every game from now on and we'd never have to have this frustrating debate ever again. But anyway, moving on, Daniel Hyde. Everyone knew the result before kickoff, did we? Leverkusen are a class act. Celtic aren't up to that calibre, so no surprises. Daniel, there's probably a lot of truth in what you've just said. Leverkusen are a pretty class team. We are not. I think Ange could get us to the stage where we could compete with Leverkusen in a couple of years. But right now, we are so far off that level. They're a proper team who had one thing in their mind last night, and that was winning the game with as little fuss as possible. We're a nice team. We play nice football. We miss chances. We give up straightforward, soft goals. We're a really nice team at the moment, and we need to find that ruthless streak. We need to find that way to win ugly. Stevie Moore, let's have a chat about the passing in front of our keeper with players who are scared of having the ball. I agree, Stevie. I thought we looked uncomfortable at times last night. I think big CCV is relatively confident on the ball. I think when you look at him sometimes he's quite bulky. You think, oh, he's quite erratic. I think he's actually quite a calm head, and I think he actually finds a good pass more often than not. He does have the odd lapse. He had 2 or 3 stray passes last night, especially in the first half. But I think in general, he's a solid player. I think Starfelt just looks so on edge, so nervy, and it just seems to be felt by the whole stadium and probably by his teammates as well. And I think the 2 fullbacks we've got at the moment, or the 2 fullbacks that played last night, just aren't good enough. I think Montgomery in time will be good enough. I think he's a massive talent, but he's a guy who's probably played half a dozen Celtic matches. He is not at the level to compete with Leverkusen. And on the other side, Anthony Ralston, a player who has improved a lot over the last couple of months and deserves so much credit for that. But is Anthony Ralston ever going to be good enough to play against teams like Leverkusen? Domestically, he'll probably be fine in most matches, but against Leverkusen, it's a huge step up. And I think all those factors combined, the inexperienced fullbacks and Starfelt just being really, really nervous, has probably accounted for why we looked really shaky at times in possession at the back. Finally, Paul Turner. I've never seen a side in recent memory create so many chances in games but can't capitalise. I think Ange and the boys will come good, just need time. I feel this way too, Paul. As I said in the video not 2 minutes ago, I think that this is a Celtic team with potential, and I think we will get there in time with Ange, but it doesn't make nights like last night any easier. It doesn't make going to Livingston and losing any easier. It's a tough time to be a Celtic fan because you can see potential in these players, but they're just so evidently not there. They have to be there on Sunday, though. We just have to find a way to win on Sunday. It's a monumental match. We will have a preview for that match dropping tomorrow at midday, which is noon, which is 12 o'clock, I think. It'll be different, obviously, depending on where you are in the world. You need to adjust your clocks to see that video coming out, but we will preview the Aberdeen game at some stage for you tomorrow. For now, though, I'm going to head off and enjoy my Friday evening. I haven't really done a sub shout out in a wee while. The subs have been going quite slowly, to be honest, over the last few weeks. Probably a lot to do with close of the transfer window, a lot to do with Celtic just not being in a great place at the moment. A lot of fans not exactly enthused by Celtic, which I get. But if you're watching this video and you've not yet subscribed to the channel, it would be really, really appreciated if you would mind doing it. Why not, eh? It's free and you get daily videos from us right on your YouTube homepage. And who wouldn't want to see this handsome face 7 times a week?